My whole life they didn't want me.
Taste the motherfucking free.
You know what I'm saying? What you gonna do? Where you
Kind
gonna
of
go?
crazy sometimes, you know what I'm saying?
You
You
just
got
gotta
shit, I
keep
just
pushing.
push, you know what I'm saying? Me, the way I work is I keep operating because I never fail, you know what I'm saying? I fall, I pick myself back up, I keep going, you know what I'm saying? I keep fuck what happens, you know?
King's
You
Logic.
can't take me
King
down.
D.
There's no force in this world that can fucking cancel my energy. Fuck it, you know? Let's go.
I'm back. Already twisted, no need to introduce. Get lifted one line. Lyrical rap, miracle killing cancer like pills. Pop the general, it's arsenic. Retarded to the flame. Go against the grain, feel the same numb pain. Fuck shots, grab the bottle. Getting hollow, run for cover like the day after tomorrow. You can say it's chill, life's cold, but keep it real. Undercover, lost the battle, but still won the war. Dark side of the force, mind trick, transform. Jedi John Connor, doing what you wanna. Puffin' nails, hydroponics, getting lost in the madness. Sustained at the level that you practice. On my own planet while I bring it back to Earth. Crashing like a comet and I'm coming feet first. Fuck that, already spent and it ain't no apple pie. Try to tell the truth when you living in a lie.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Tales from the Chris. I'm your host, Chris White, Mucosal Melanoma survivor, thriver, and advocate. My podcast where I like to talk to people about anything and everything because it's all on the table. Please help me welcome today's guest. I'm at the Advocacy Days out in Washington, D.C. this past year for the MRF's 2023 Hill Day. Please give a warm welcome for Mrs. Stacey Sepp.
All right. So you're talking so for me, creating the podcast just period is more of like me coming out of, I guess, my insecurities and everything, because by doing the podcast and everything, it's like I'm creating work for myself to where it's like, okay, now I have this mission. I'm going to get all these episodes done. I'm going to make this a habit. I'm trying to create new habits. And so those habits are like trying to be more outward and not so like shy, like kind of reclusive, but you know, by putting it out through all the different kind of social media outlets, if I can, or any kind of way to just kind of build an audience, because what I think I got to talk about is often sometimes so unique. It's like I don't feel like anybody really believes me because it hasn't been done. So I'm having to create this own space for myself. And so by doing that, when people ask, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? And I really try to tell them, they don't correlate because they're like, well, I don't know anything about that. I don't know anybody that's ever done anything like that. And it's just like, well, people are doing it. You don't know anybody, but after all the years of everything, I was like, nah, I got the content, and I was like, if I believe in myself that I'm going to be able to do it, then that should be enough. But a lot of that's a lot of this just whole struggle with the whole, what are you going to do? What do you want to be? Where do you want to go? But, for years it's pounding into you, and it's like, I had no clue. And so it literally took all the years of just trying to figure things out, but getting mucosal melanoma to really go through all of that. And then on the other side to be like, do I want to go back to what I was doing?
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, nothing like, a life or death situation, and very near death for you to really crystallize what it is that you want to do. Nothing like that to just, really clarify what matters in life and what your mission is. So I think it's amazing that you have seen that this is your purpose, and that you're doing something about it. You're taking action. You and I have talked a few times about, gosh, I wish that I had, talked to this person or listened to this podcast or knew that information when I was going through my melanoma, when I was really in it. And so I think it's just awesome that you're taking those steps to make this information available to people who might just be starting out now, or people who are in the thick of it and they just need to see a little bit of hope, to know that, hey, people make it through this. A lot of people make it through this.
Right. So when you get diagnosed, it's such a blow to the brain, whether it doesn't matter if their search engine is Google or whatever it is. If you just go into your browser and then just start entering your diagnosis, it all pops up, or it did when I was diagnosed, to such outdated and everything. There was really no videos. There's nobody of my age that had that diagnosis, period. That was male. Yeah, and they're, 36, that, this is their diagnosis. This is what they did. This is how they got better. This is, it wasn't there. Like, there was a lot of more sinonasal and everything, but very few, over the last 5 years, the video platforms and everything have just kind of exploded and stuff. But there wasn't much YouTube or anything, or the Facebook, the Instagram, TikTok. I'm not even sure if TikTok, maybe it was, but I wasn't on it in 2018. No. So, and it's not what it is today, and so that's what the minds are going. And so, when you're trying to really reach people, it's like, I've kind of just been to myself and maybe just been on one platform and then talking to the same group of people. And it really took coming to Washington, it's this past March, and meeting everybody, and then just kind of realizing that, like, I am a part of this kind of group to where I finally feel at home, and I don't have to explain myself on here's what happened, and here's how I feel, and here's what's going on, because I'm in my community, I'm in that family, and it was just this kind of high you come home from, and it was like, oh my God, those are my people, because even though they might not have my exact same diagnosis, but a lot of them like have that's pretty close, and they've either had rare ones and this and that. But when it comes to melanoma, it's definitely like very like life threatening, and very just wake up kind of emotionally, like it could be debilitating, you know what I mean?
Oh, I do. I very much know what you mean. Yeah. I want to touch on something that you said about when you're first diagnosed, that you go online. And I think it's important for people to understand that even now, the statistics, the survival statistics, are really outdated. They haven't been, there's been such a short period of time from when immunotherapy was introduced, which was 2011, until now, that the research studies haven't even caught up, or not the research studies, the statistics that are the published statistics that are out there through American Cancer Society, or even, some of the melanoma resources, don't reflect the survival rates of today, because they're 10 years, 15 years, 20 years behind. So what you're seeing out there even now is not reflective of what's really going on today and how many people are surviving through a stage 4 diagnosis. So I think number one, people need to understand that those statistics are old and they're not representative of what's going on today. And then something else that you said is that it's really tough as someone who's newly diagnosed to not see other people who have that diagnosis and who look like you and who are your same age and maybe have kids or whatever. In my case, it's just hard when you don't see people like you who have been diagnosed and who have beat the disease. So for me, to go out on social media and actually find people's faces to put with the statistics made a huge difference. It's one thing to read statistics and you're like, I don't know who those people are, but to see people who have either beat melanoma, maybe they were diagnosed and they've gone through treatment and they're surviving, their years past, or who are in it and doing well, right? Thriving with the disease. It was just a big turning point for me to see that, to know that, okay, they're doing it, I can do it.
So was that kind of like your guidebook when you were like, all right, I collected myself, I know I got to go start fighting this, I got to go see the doctors, go to treatment and everything, that whole kind of moment kind of settles down a little bit. You go to the doctor and everything, and you start hearing about what you have, what's the plan of action and everything. I had my, I definitely wanted to make sure I at least brought somebody with me. My doctors had actually told me not to really tell my family until I had like more answers and everything, but single at the time and this and that. And I couldn't imagine not telling them beforehand and stuff. And so my my parents have been like, both my biological mom and dad, they've been divorced for like 30 years or something now, and at the time, or what, both of them met me at my appointment. Both of my adult siblings, they had their spouses watch their kids or whatever, but like all of my they all came to my appointment and stuff, so I had all these extra eyes and ears to kind of absorb and listen and ask the questions and stuff like that. So I, from the very beginning, I just felt so kind of embraced, and I was like, okay, well, they got my back, what do I got to do, internally, emotionally for myself to like get through this? And so I just kind of approached it like, well, it just sounds so dangerously like not good that I have to kind of come out of myself, in a certain sense, and kind of create the optimism that it's going to be okay. I mean, I just kind of knew I don't know how to explain it, but I just kind of knew it was like I was going to beat this. It was like didn't know how. I was like, I couldn't find anything about anybody doing it, so my mind was, well, I don't have any kind of immediate family in terms of like my own spouse or any kids or anything and stuff, and so I am an uncle of many nieces and nephews and everything. So I was just thinking, what was going to be my, my legacy, or what would I be remembered by, And so I thought to myself, well, if I'm going out hard, and I'm going to go out so hard, that you won't be able to forget it. And what they're going to remember is like how positive I was and how much I believed, and how I just was not like going to let anything negative. And it was like, cause once I kind of accepted and knew, I was like, like your switches have been clicked. You know what I'm saying? Like, like it's all done. I mean, all the things that you ever thought, the most like nightmarish things that could have ever happened, it's like, if you think about, I always thought when I was a kid, I was like, man, I would never want to get like, the big thing at the time when I was little was AIDS, because I was born in 82. And so all growing up on TV, it was like DARE programs and don't do drugs, just say no, and don't have unprotected sex, watch out for AIDS, and no. And so it was just like, oh, there's always a disease out there. And then here we go, my mid-30s. So when that all kind of hit, like I was saying, I literally went into like, well, that positive attitude was literally like I tell people, it's like it's a fight club. I went Tyler Durden on it, So that was kind of my thing. And so, and everybody around me, I quickly shut down any like negative like talk. There was like election stuff and politics going on, and it was like, no, man, y'all leave that at the door. I just like, because it was like, what? My mind was like, what are y'all out there lobbying? I ain't doing nothing, like, but sitting around just arguing and talking about stuff, that's not doing me any good. I eventually had to get to a point where it was like, like no light and silence and stuff. But I always wanted to have that connection, and the companionship around me. But I just bless my family for sticking through me for everything. But it's one of those things to where I quickly realized immediately, it was like, cancer definitely is like a worse on your family and your loved ones than it is on you that actually has it, and for me, I mean, I could deal with it in everything in a sense, because I didn't want to see them, being sad and everything. If I was going to go, I wanted to be happy. And so that's what I had to do. And then, really wasn't pretty quickly into, after my diagnosis, and I had my first couple of surgeries and radiation, and then figured out that it was, metastasizing, and I had to start doing combo immunotherapy. When I had all that metastasis, that's when they put me on, the comfort pack of all the pain meds. And so, because of that, I honestly, I willingly and acceptably was like, well, I mean, I've had pain meds before. I've been getting injured my entire life, doing, busting my shoulder up, getting cut on accident, just whatever and stuff. And so it was like, yeah, I mean, give me the pain med. So I kind of used that to my advantage, and I just stayed high all the time. And I tell people, imagine how high you can fly when you feel like Superman. So I didn't have to physically feel the pain, but I didn't have a choice. I had to stay ahead of it, you know, so
Yeah.
that's constant patches, hydrocodone all day, you know, whatever and stuff. And so, but then also that it kind of gave me an energy, and it kind of, you know, I felt good in a sense, and I wasn't feeling the cancer, I wasn't feeling the emotional stuff, and so I didn't deal with any of that. You know what I mean? Like until like probably about a good year, you know, after I got done with my clinical trial dosage in January 2020. You know, but
and then kind of reality set in then.
Yeah, 2021 was a really crazy year. So in that year, you know, during the year 2020, so I get out of my clinical trial from the hospital. They dose me with my TIL on January 15th. I do my 6 doses of IL-2. They monitor me, and then I get released from the hospital on January 20th, 2020. I stay in the hospital, or not in the hospital, but I stay in town for about a week or so. And they just kind of monitor me. I have a little checkup, and then I go back and forth. And then I eventually have my first set of scans at the end of February, and things are looking good. There's definite reduction. Things working, and it's all good. I go back to Texas, and, you know, from that point on, I think the scans were then, you know, every 3 months, or and one more 6-week visit. And then after that, every 3 months. Mm-hmm. But COVID hit, so I couldn't go from Texas to Colorado to do none of that. So I was scanning Texas, send the disc over there. So that became the new protocol for that. So the telehealth thing became my lifesaver in terms of that. And then I had to make a decision. You know, this was now, you know, the beginning of February and going into March, but in terms of work, they were great for everything. You know, I was on short-term disability, and then it rolled along, but I had to eventually return to work or COBRA my insurance by May 1st. And both of my eyes, I had to still get cataract surgery on both of them to get them fixed because of the immunotherapy treatment prior to my clinical trial. And so it was like this mad rush during COVID to go get all my appointments done, get my eyes fixed, go back to work when everybody was told not to go to work because, you know, it's new home construction. So, and during the time, it was just real nuts and crazy with everything that was going on in the world. And I was still trying to like physically heal, you know, and emotionally at the same time. But I go into work, I'm there for like 2 weeks, you know, and after 2 weeks, it's basically like back to action, Chris. And so I was just kind of being like a helper and assisting another builder in a neighborhood, and they had told me that another builder from a different neighborhood left, and I needed to go take it over because they just didn't have anybody, and it was a small project. There's only like 5 houses. It was real easy. They were almost done, you know, which I agreed to do, and I was like, okay, cool. And so that kind of had got me back into like the mode of doing what I want to do, but it was just way too fast, in my opinion. Way too soon. Yeah. And so when they do that, they're like, okay, well, Chris is back, you know, we know what he can handle, you know, and so let's give him more. And so I became the guy that would go take over neighborhoods and finish them out and help people, you know, and this and that. And it was like, dude, I'm not trying to be this big of an all-star, but I kind of was. But I mean, I wanted to be, but I didn't know my physical capabilities yet, because remember, I'm still taking all my pain meds. I didn't stop just because I got out of the trial. So I didn't know all that, you know, my whole thing was, you know, once I know the cancer's gone and I'm ahead of it, you know, I'm going to make more of a conscious effort to come off of it. But by that time I had been on them for so long, like, you know, it was what it was, you know, so, yeah. So when 2021 hit, you know, that's when, I had, you know, confirmation from, you know, a couple of recent, you know, set of scans and everything. And they had confirmed I had a complete metabolic response. You know, these couple of little tissues that they're still monitoring, those are necrotic and everything. So like, you know, it's been 100% clear and everything since. And so from that point, I kind of got the confidence of like, all right, Chris, you know, let's move on, you know, like you can do this, like, you know, reset. And so as I'm trying to do that, I'm also still trying to create my boundaries, you know, on how much I can do and this and that, but there's no basis to base it on, like, because nobody's really kind of come out of that and everything. So I just would keep plugging along. So I ended up throughout the year of 2021, I ended up reducing myself, down to completely, removing myself off the patch, but I was still taking the hydrocodone. And it just would vary on day to day. But when I noticed when I would stay busy, I would take less. But overall, through a regular work day, I would get home and my nights, I would just crash. I wouldn't eat, I wouldn't shower, and then by the time the weekend came, I had no social interaction because I was just dead.
Yeah.
And so
you'd pushed it so much during the week, and then
in my mind, I still know what I want to do, but physically, there's no studies on, hey, there's a guy just like Chris that had this and this amount of, there's nothing, they don't know what to tell me what to do and not to do. I'm sitting here still trying to figure it out.
Exactly.
It's crazy because I was, I mentioned this, I built a model in the spring of 2021, and the home building market at the time, you remember, it was like going bonkers everywhere, because of COVID and stuff. And so, I ended up still building a model under 60 days out, and that's a great time for building a house, what I'm saying, from scratch start to finish, but during that, like towards the end, I got written up, so I guess I was having attitude issues, but I had right around that time, I ended up actually finding an in-person therapist. What was messed up was I could go to work, but I couldn't, they didn't have in-person therapy when COVID first started.
Right.
And so it was just like, okay, I finally found one, but she's like $200 an hour, and far away. And so it would be I would go, but I wouldn't go as much. Right. And so I never could really, I kind of went to do that, and then I would stop to do that. And then it was, I don't know, it was like I kind of felt like things were getting it going, but they really weren't moving. And then later on in 2021, there was just, there's some internal family issues going on, and it was really just kind of put me in a down spot. And I switched jobs, and it was in the same industry, got more pay. But I was thinking I was going to be in a better spot to be able to handle like the business and the work that I was doing. And at the same time, I was doing, getting involved with, the support groups on Facebook and joining Zoom calls and stuff and getting more into that activity in that world. And it was just the whole transformation. And it went in my head of like, what am I doing? Do I really just want to work in home building to just be exhausted all the time and get in arguments and get written up for, and this and that for the money? Is money really the priority in life? Is that what's been ingrained in my head? Just like, make sure you're financially set, then do all the other stuff, because, then you're chasing that, not like what you really want to do. And since I never really knew what I wanted to do, and then it just kind of clicked, and so in 2022, I finally had just got to the point, when I was at work and I had a sales guy that just, I didn't get along with, and I had a closing I was working on, and things just weren't going well. And I wrote an email to the sales guy telling him basically in so many words that, and no cussing or anything, but that, he sucked at his job, and I could do it better. And, it made my job, even worse, and this and that. And I CC'd our bosses on it, and I got filed, I guess, what they call it, a hostile complaint. I don't even know. But anyways, I've never been so excited to be fired, because I was like, now I can start doing what I really want to do. When I went to go work at that company in 2021, I said, hey, to myself, I don't know out loud to everybody, but it was like 5 years max. Here's my 5-year plan. I'm going to be finding a way to, get into the advocacy world and talk about melanoma and my experience. And, there'll be more people like me, because the clinical trial I went through, it worked for me. Yeah. So, there's going to be more people, let's get started. And I have such insecurity issues, I think, sometimes, and procrastination problems or execution, dilemma or whatever. And so it was like, nobody can really tell you how to do it, because you're the first one to do it. And so, but it's been an emotional thing. And this is a way to just kind of let it all out and talk about it, explain it, you know, and just, you know, it was like, especially, I don't know, maybe like the last, like, you know, year and a half, I've never been depressed. And so, you know, that's one of, I know I've just went on for like a 10-minute ramble, but I remember when I said I went Tyler Durden, you know, I went by doing that and doing everything, you know, and all that. Like, I never really approached any of the emotional stuff, because I didn't even look into like my own records. You know, I didn't look at my own scans and really divulge into what was going down until like the middle of 2021, when I started like handwriting a story about, you know, what was going on. And then, you know, and then right at the time, all this, you know, and so I literally
really interesting.
You know, because when I had my mom with me, I had my dad with me, I had my siblings with me, you know, and so I literally I'd never actually read my own scans. I mean, I was at the appointments and they would tell me whether it's good or bad and show me whether it improved or not, or, you know, this and that. But I mean, I wasn't into the details and this and that. It was basically like, tell me what the medicine is and get me in the chair. But I approached everything like I was building houses. And it was like sense of urgency. It was like, not later, now. You know, why do it later when we can do it now? This stuff's mean. Like, if you wait, you know, it's gonna get you. It's like, you know, I was thinking about the Terminator so much. The T-100, you know, is fighting with the T-1000, and they get in these, you know, in these fights and stuff. And then, you know, eventually, like, you know, Arnold gets away and everything, but, you know, at the end of the movie, you know, he drops him in, you know, the T-1000 in the metal and he melts. But that's a constant thing with the melanomas. You know, you can get away with it, and then you come up to it and then you fight it, and then you see what's going down, and then, you know, take a break, you know, and it's like boxing, round 2, you know, whatever.
That's right.